Y'all know what time it is, man. We represent to go on this one. Yeah.
So today I'm bringing you guys a YouTube video alongside the podcast for Black Boys Abroad, and we want to talk about 5 things that you need to do before you move abroad. Now, I've been living in Colombia for the last 6 years. I've been overseas for almost 10 years. Okay, I took my first long-term trip to Costa Rica in 2010. I've lived in Honduras, Dominican Republic, and 3 different cities here in Colombia. So I have a little bit of experience with traveling abroad. Now, mind you, the game has changed drastically since 2010. So today, I just want to give you a few pointers about if I had to move abroad starting next month, what would I do? First thing to consider, where are you going? Okay, where are you moving to? That is very important when considering moving abroad. I think that we have this very important search engine called Google. The next best search engine in the world is called YouTube. And so when thinking about where you want to go abroad, I would just start getting on the internet and researching places and looking at different pictures. Now, you want to take in consideration what's their visa process. Can you get in with an American passport? Do you need a visa for long-term purposes? I know here in Colombia, for people that are on a tourist visa, they can do a maximum of 180 days. Okay, but there are different ways to get around that. If you're retired, if you have a pension, if you're collecting Social Security, military, you can show that proof of income and they'll give you an extended visa for those purposes. Obviously, if you marry a foreign national, if you have a job, I am here on a work visa, but since I've been here 6 years, I can transition out to a residential visa. Also, you can get a student visa. I know people that's been taking Spanish classes in Colombia the last 3 years. Ain't been in damn class, but there's different ways to approach it. So you want to think about where you're going. Now, if you don't have a lot of information, one thing you can do is try to join a Facebook group. All right, if Facebook is good for anything, it's to build community. Facebook is going to be better as far as joining different chats, different groups that's going to give you information about where you would like to stay. I know I personally belong to a couple group chats. One is called Black Expats in Colombia, if I'm not mistaken. And I see people with all types of crazy questions. Okay, one crazy question on there I saw was, should I ship my oven to Colombia? And I'm just like, what in the world is in that oven that you want to ship it to Colombia? So that brings me to my second point, pack light. When you're considering moving abroad, you want to downsize your life in the States, okay? You want to have as many assets as possible and minimize your liabilities back home. So if you own a home or if you're in the process of a mortgage, consider putting your home on Airbnb. Obviously, you can sell the home. You can rent it out to traveling nurses. I know a few people that are doing that, but figure out what you're going to do with your home. If you own a car or you're making car payments, honestly, sell that thing. Okay, if you're going to be overseas for an extended period of time, just go ahead and sell it. Don't even bother thinking about shipping it because that's a whole nother headache you don't want to get involved in. Sell that vehicle. I know right before the pandemic hit, my grandmother had purchased a vehicle and then something happened and she lost her license. She's getting up there. And by the time we realized that she was contacted by the dealership, and because of the pandemic, they had vehicle shortages. They bought her car back for the same amount that she owed on it. So there are different options. You just want to look into those. So you want to get rid of your US phone plan if necessary, get everything out of your name, rent things out. Guys, do not put things in storage if it's not necessary. I know people paying $200, $300 a month for items in storage while they're living abroad. Quick story, when I first moved to Honduras, this was in 2013, I had 4 suitcases with me, 4 full suitcases and a carry-on. The airline only allowed me to pay for 2 additional suitcases, and I had to actually call my ride to come back to the airport and grab that suitcase. That suitcase sat in the basement of my grandmother's place for 2 years. So by the time I realized that it was still there, I didn't even bother looking at it. I think I just donated the stuff to Goodwill because obviously I didn't need it. So pack light. So that was 2013. By the time I moved to Cali, Colombia in 2016, I had 1 full suitcase, a carry-on, and a thing of protein, which was weird because they checked my thing of protein for drugs while I'm going from the States to Colombia. And I'm like, no one ships drugs from, never mind. I'll take that part out. So anyhow, pack light. Start thinking of ways to downsize your life. Next up, how are you going to pay for this? How are you going to fund your new life? Everyone's situation and circumstance is different. All right, obviously, if you're less established, you're 19 years old, 20 years old, you don't have a lot of money saved away, there's some advantages to that because you're a little bit more flexible about accommodations. Maybe you don't mind staying in hostels. You maybe don't have to stay in a very astute neighborhood. Let's say you're a little older, a little set in your ways, but you have a pension. That allows you to, one, get that visa we talked about, but also probably stay in a nicer place. Now, certain professions lend themselves to traveling abroad and working remotely more so than others. I have a lot of friends that work in IT, tech, different industries, accountants. Those are jobs where you can work remote now because of the pandemic. Education, still difficult to work remote unless you're teaching classes of English, but China pretty much shut that down. So good luck with that. If you want to work as a teacher, I work in education. There is a process that you can go through, but you need to be certified, you need to have a resume. Education should be your passion. It's very easy to tell the people that are coming abroad just to live abroad and don't really want to teach. And I know I work in administration. So those are things to consider. How are you going to fund this thing? I know people that, sell things online. But that also comes back down to the other ones like downsizing your life. Once you've eliminated a lot of those expenses that you don't have to have, you'll find that it's a lot more economical to live abroad. Now, people will ask about the cost of living. How much does it cost to live here in Colombia? Really depends. You can live as cheap as $500 a month, to be honest. Like, I know people that live off of less than $500 a month. And I know people that run through $5,000 a month like it's butter. Now, granted, $5,000 a month in Chicago, New York, it's nothing. But $5,000 a month here can go very, very far. I live on a budget in between somewhere. I would say closer to $2,000 a month. I need to revise that. I need to get it down a little bit so I can start saving at a more aggressively rate. But again, these are things to consider as far as cost of living. Transportation is relatively cheap in other places, but if you want to go to a more advanced country, transportation might be more expensive. And so that goes back to the first question, where to live. Make sure you have your finances in order, and then also make sure you know how to access your money. Contact your banks before you leave. Let them know you're going to be gone for an extended period of time. Make sure the countries that you're going to have conglomerates that allow you to take out money from your bank, because that can happen. The next tip is take a short trip. You know where you want to go. All right, you downsize your life. Okay, you figured out how you're going to pay for it. Let's take a short trip. Now, take in consideration that going to Punta Cana is different than living in Santo Domingo in the Dominican Republic. One is a tourist spot and one is a city where people actually live their day-to-day lives. It would be similar to, you think about South Beach, and then you have Little Haiti. Both are technically Miami, but they're different. It hit a little bit different. You want to take a short trip, and what I say, even if you're going to be there for an extended period of time, let's say you want to do a month, just do a week at an Airbnb. Do a week at one Airbnb in particular, because if you sign up for that entire month and you don't like it, you're stuck there for a month. So do at least an extended weekend or a week. Determine if you like that area, that type of style, and then you can contact the owner directly and negotiate a better price. Once they can trust you, they know that your money's good, that you're going to be there for an extended period of time, you can negotiate your own rate directly with them. So that's something to take in consideration. Now, last but definitely not least, this last one could actually be the first one. And it is for you to determine, what do you want to get out of the experience? I said it because I meet people that originally come to Colombia because they want to learn Spanish. But 2-3 years into the experience, they still have not learned the language. Why? They decided to live in a part of the town where there are mostly foreigners, expats, digamos gringos, and they only speak English, which is perfectly fine if what you want out of the experience is cheap cost of living and great weather. But if you want to learn Spanish, then you need to put yourself in a position to learn the language. Living in a Spanish-speaking country and thinking you're going to pick up the language just because you're there, it's the same as having a gym membership and thinking you're going to get in shape. It doesn't work like that. You have to put forth the effort. So make a decision on why do you want to live abroad. Are you trying to escape racism? I know people that have. Listen to me. There's still racism in Latin America and other parts of the world. So be careful with that. Do you just want a cheap cost of living? Do you want better weather? Do you want to meet people? Do you want to go surfing? Find out what you want to get out of the experience and make sure you set time and energy towards those goals. If you want to pick up salsa dancing, all right, make sure that you schedule classes, because trust me, the first time I went out in Cali, Colombia, and I seen the people out there getting it, I was like, yeah, I need to get on top of that. So these are things to take into consideration before you take that leap. What do you want to get out of it? And set a plan. Have some goals, short-term, long-term goals on how you plan on reaching that point. So again, don't want to hold you guys long today. Just trying to give you 5 tips about what you should do before you move abroad. Now, if you like this content, want to see more of this type of content, please like, subscribe, leave a comment down below, and I will reply to each and every comment that you guys make. Positive comments only, okay? We're trying to keep it good vibes only. If you're thinking about coming to Colombia, I lived in Cali, Barranquilla, Medellin, also Dominican Republic, Honduras, other places. I'm open to try to give suggestions. Obviously, I'm not an ambassador of any of these countries or any of these places. I don't make any money off people coming. I actually currently have nothing to sell you. But again, hope you enjoyed this. Also, make sure you tune into the podcast. We're going to have the Spanish Cheat Code podcast. We're going to be giving you some tips about how to acquire the Spanish language. Signing off, your boy, D. George. Peace.
Yeah. Y'all know what time it is, man. We represent to go on this one. Yeah.